It's incredibly helpful and interesting to see a really diverse mix of people, and blogging enabled me to encourage it. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Because I like seeing so many different abilities, ages, weights, races. I want to hear your story. It just gradually kind of, I say, got bigger and bigger. I spent a lot of time and a lot of energy on it, and it really acted as an amazing motivator. I met my best friend on Twitter. I met like a community of people that I could do things with locally, and it felt really special. I then got into obstacle racing. I then started running longer distances. I started doing mad things like open water swimming because I was challenged by a company. They said, would you take on an open water swim and write about it? And I just I went home and I said to my husband, I said, I'm gonna swim 800 meters open water. We both nearly fell off the sofa laughing. It's like, when did you last swim? I don't know. Things I do them because I can't do them, and I'm not scared about being a beginner. And I think if anyone takes one thing from that, like, please don't be scared. Please, if it goes from running 5k to 10k, or going for a swim, or going to parkrun, or whatever it is, or picking up a kettlebell that really frightens you, have a go. It's really okay to be a beginner.
Hi, my name is Michelle Lewis. 10 years ago, you'd have been lucky to see me run to the end of the road. These days, running is second nature to me. From marathons to park runs to putting my own running group through their paces. You'll often see me in suitably loud attire, getting ready to pound the pavements. And here's a secret, if I can do it, you can too. There's so many wonderful and inspiring stories in the world of running. And not just running, some of my favourite tales involve those who take to their wheelchairs, bikes, or simply their own trusty feet in an attempt to get fitter, faster, or just have some fun. In this podcast, I'm going to be in conversation with some of the most inspiring and fascinating of these people. Remember, it's your time, your speed, your way. The only person you need to keep up with is yourself. This week I've been talking to Northamptonshire blogger Katie Brown, who is the woman behind the incredible Cake These Scales blog, where she talks about everything from mental health to food to fitness and of course running. We spoke about everything from coping with COVID, the importance of taking a break from social media, and how even a short run can massively improve your day. I think you'll get some great tips from Katie, and we did laugh a lot too.
So my running tale did not begin at school. It began at later life. I have a funny story that I love to tell people about how I used to write my own sick notes for PE, and now I find it really amusing that I run half marathons for fun and take part in loads of events and so on, because I actually hated sport, and I really felt that running wouldn't be for me. I got to about 23, 24, and I went on a weight loss journey. I try not to talk about this too much these days because I think that if you decide to run purely for weight loss, you stop enjoying it. But it was where I started, and it's really important to mention it because this is a very valid starting point for a lot of people. And it was incredibly tough for me. It kind of started with a couch to 5k type system, and it felt like I was never going to get there. Like, everybody else was running 5k, 10k, everyone else was really fast. They could run half marathons, and I was struggling to get to 5k without stopping. And I think it's really important to look back and remember these things, because I might not have been the quickest to get onto it, but once I got there was kind of no stopping me, and it opened up this whole great big world, and I've never looked back. So yeah, it started from being the least sporty person ever to being obsessed with it.
So your obsession then led to not just physically running. Do you support running clubs? Do you, races, or are you just a runner?
Well, I personally don't think I do enough. Now, I have marshalled before and it was the most fun thing ever. I marshalled on a couple of obstacle race course runs and handing out sweets and encouraging people over obstacles and so on, because that's something I went on to do. I haven't done one for a couple of years now, but I got really into that scene. And I think it's the most incredibly exciting and rewarding people, because I love encouraging people, and I know how it feels that somebody just saying you're doing great actually makes a lot of difference. And I really strongly feel that I don't do enough. I really wanted to marshal at parkrun, but because of this extraordinary year, I haven't got around to do that. And that's not an excuse. I need to get around to do it. When it comes to running clubs, I've never joined a running club. Actually, I'd quite like to come and meet your gang and come and run with people, because I don't do it enough. And I think that the social element of running is really, really nice. And I think it's really important. And I think the reason I haven't, and I'm going to be really honest here, is because I've always had quite a lot of anxiety about how I would fit into a running club. Would I be quick enough? It's such a common thing, could I keep up with people, or would we get along, or what if I need to go pee in a bush? All this sort of stuff. I'm sorry, I just say what comes off into my mind.
No, this is good. We all think it.
We all think it, and so on. And I think it's never too late to sit back and go, you know what? Or why am I not doing these things? And rather than just thinking about it, I'm going to do it, because it's good to be social.
So then take us to the next journey then, because you're not just a runner. When did the next level go? Was it the blog? Was it the podcast? You have expanded. Please share.
It's a bit of a story, so I'll try and compress it for you. When I started my fitness and health journey in my early 20s, so this was 10, 12 years ago, the fitness scene was quite limited for women. We didn't have as much social media and interaction as we do right now. And I found from running that I really liked, I got into climbing. And I started taking climbing quite seriously. I took on some really big alpine routes and some pretty serious stuff. And I used running as a way to get fitter and fitter. And this took me way, way out of my comfort zone. And it taught me that a lot about myself, and I had a lot of shyness, quite a lot of anxiety. I never thought that I was good enough, because I would hear from people that, you can't do that, or you'll fail, and so on. And that taught me that you're so much capable than you think you are. I think a lot of us think we're set to the limitations that we have inside our heads. I just went on some really amazing journeys and some really amazing life-changing adventures. And I'm so thankful for that incredible experience. And I got to about 27, 28, and I was really lonely. I was just working, saving up to go on trips and so on. Actually, I think what I'm doing is quite interesting. Hopefully, I will get the little space on the internet and I would start a blog. Where my blog first started, it was really tiny and I didn't know what I was doing. And the whole blogging community was really very, very small. And it started as a way to document some of my adventures and share some of the things I was doing. I had absolutely no expectations from it. And gradually more people started reading. I started connecting with more people, which was really exciting. And I started to build a little community of people that I would speak to on a regular basis. And that felt really special, actually. And it was really enjoyable. And then the health scene kind of started taking off quite a lot online. And what really excited me about it is we had an opportunity to give real voices a talk. I'm not saying that these people at the top aren't real voices, they are, and they're relevant, but I think that it's incredibly helpful and interesting to see a really diverse mix of people. And blogging enabled me to encourage it. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Because I like seeing so many different abilities, ages, weights, races. I want to hear your story. And it just gradually kind of, got bigger and bigger. I spent a lot of time and a lot of energy on it. And it really acted as an amazing motivator. I met my best friend on Twitter. I met like a community of people that I could do things with locally, and it felt really special. I then got into obstacle racing. I then started running longer distances. I started doing mad things like open water swimming because I was challenged by a company. They said, would you take on an open water swim and write about it? And I just I went home and I said to my husband, I said, I'm gonna swim 800 meters open water. We both nearly fell off the sofa laughing. It's like, when did you last swim? I don't know. Things I do them because I can't do them, and I'm not scared about being a beginner. And I think if anyone takes one thing from that, please don't be scared. Please, if it goes from running 5k to 10k, or going for a swim, or going to parkrun, or whatever it is, or picking up a kettlebell that really frightens you, have a go. It's really okay to be a beginner. And I just kept kind of expanding and so on. Sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes it's we get caught up in this little bubble of comparison, and I think it is a highlight reel. It looks like everyone's doing really great all the time and everyone's just brilliant. Reality is sometimes it's just like, don't worry guys, I suck today and this is just fine. And I started the podcast. It's very, very recent when lockdown started, and I felt really terrified about this. But I wanted a chance to talk rather than write, because I appreciated that not everyone wants to sit down and read a podcast. Some people like to walk and listen and so on. And I wanted to share some stories, perhaps a little bit more intimately. I wanted to try something different. Again, I go back to the whole thing of I've never done this before. And you think, well, am I going to be rubbish? Is anyone going to listen? And I just try and apply that to as many different areas of my life as possible.
But I notice on the blog, you do focus a hell of a lot on mental health.
I think it's so therapeutic, and I think it's so important. And I think running and my mental health really come together very well. I've had a lot of struggles, and I feel very strongly about sharing stories with people. And that's why I try and point out that things are highlight reels. I like talking about when I feel quite low, but I try and come up with more positive ways of dealing with it and share that story with other people. I feel very strongly about male mental health as well. I think that I have a real problem with the whole kind of man up concept. I think it's really important as humans. We normalize talking about not always feeling great and not always feeling positive. And I think that lockdown, for example, has been a really tough time.
I was going to mention that.
We've spent so much time with ourselves and our thoughts, and sometimes we have to unpack these boxes that we don't necessarily want to unpack. We have to think about things that we might struggle with. And there are so many different layers to that. Like, I talk about blogging as positively as I can, but the reason I didn't want to focus hugely on weight loss being the reason why I started running, because I had a lot of mental health issues surrounding food as well. And I think it's hard to deny that there are a lot of disorders in people that do use social media on a regular basis and so on. I think a lot of us kind of get that fear of comparison and feel like we have to keep up with people, and we do things that perhaps aren't the healthiest. And I had it's been a long, expansive journey, and I like to talk about it, people, because I don't want to, I'm flawed. I'm a human. I'm imperfect, and sometimes my brain is really glitchy and I can't help it. It's just how it is, guys. So yeah.
So how are you finding COVID at the moment and those around you? Like, do you feel, I know from myself, I've been, as you might know, the strong one in the sense that the group to think, okay, I'll treat this, I'll bring my positivity of my personality out and help people in the ways that I can by having fun. I fancy dress, I dance and in the street, do running around the block. What sort of things have you done in COVID?
Yeah, now before I get started, can I just say I love your fancy dress and stuff like that. I think it's wonderful, and I think it's so heartwarming for people. Like, you are so important, so that is really special. I just wanted to note that because it's
nuts.
No, it's great. I love that. I love it. I feel like it's been an amazing opportunity, as I say, to unpack boxes. And when I started with the podcast, for example, it felt quite quite intimate, and it felt quite nice to be able to share some of those stories and us to have the time to take back and listen. And also I took some time off the blog. I took a 2-week social media break, and it was the most enlightening thing I've done in a long time. And I recommend that if anyone feels like they're struggling, or perhaps they're not paying attention enough to things that really matter, or they need to refocus, because I think that some people, I had a real low at the beginning. I was really frightened, and taking a couple of weeks off gave me an opportunity to really refocus on positivity and some of the messages that I wanted to put forwards. And I just feel like it's been this incredible time for growth. And I think it's given us a really great time and opportunity to consider what's not serving us as well. And I decided to start, as I plan quite far in advance with my blog, and I've got quite a lot of stuff coming up. And when I was unpacking boxes of things, I started to realize what is making me happy and what's not making me happy. And being able to share those stories. Like yesterday, I sort of said, I woke up and I had this great big workout planned and so on, and my body just said no. And I was like, hey guys, I hope that you're not like me, but sometimes I have to give myself permission to say no. And it's really important for me to share those stories on social media and say, if you just had to slow down and you just had to step back and refocus on your family, or refocus on what's important and so on, that's a really, really good thing. And I feel like I've done the best I can to keep my family and stuff and entertained. There's just myself, my husband and the cat here, and it's been quite lonely at times, but I think with video calling and this, that and the other, it's been a really lovely opportunity to try and keep each other upbeat. And I think it's not necessarily always a bad thing, but there are obviously loads of really awful things that have happened during this time. And I just think gratitude, huge gratitude. I'm healthy, I'm alive, my family are healthy, my friends are healthy. Life is so good. And I think if you learn that you've got everything, haven't you? Isn't it just fantastic? It's really that simple.
So one point you did raise, and it is something that I feel, and it'd be good if that's one of your blogs as well, which I've learned as well amongst the runners in my group as well, and with, friends and family and work colleagues, that it is a good idea to have a break with social media. Because I don't know about you, but I would be surprised if the increase of using Facebook, Instagram, Twitter has more than doubled, tripled, because that is the way that we've been able to communicate with our friends and family. But at the same time, seeing so much positivity can always have a negative effect.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's social media is incredible. And I think it's wonderful that we have this ability to have these platforms where we can talk to people, where we can meet people, where we can share, like you say, positivity, where we can keep in contact with the family and the people that we see as really important. And at the same time, I think also, I know I go back to the whole highlight reel over and over again. I think it highlighted the differences between people's lives, and I think that can be quite troublesome. Some people found it very, very easy. Some people stayed in good health. Some people stayed in work. Some people had, from a fitness point of view, fitness equipment at home and so on, or they had lots of people with them, or a garden. I follow a lot of people in London, and as we all know, here in Northampton, we've got a lot of space. The cost of living is significantly cheaper than London, but a lot of my audience and my friends are in London, whereas you don't have a garden. And Correct. It's very hard to look at people in Northampton that, I'm not saying everyone watching this has a garden, but we have a little bit more space and a bit more freedom because we're not so compressed. And so then people that are a little bit more compressed or are in less happy situations, it can, while we're having a great time, like I'm trying to post positive memes and like, yeah, I'm so happy I got out for a walk today. I'm so happy I did this. I'm having a really nice time just reading books, just sitting in the sun and being. It hasn't been easy for everybody. And I think learning when to cut off, when to say no, because I love Twitter. I have a love-hate relationship with Twitter, but it can be very, very negative and very, very yes. positive. And we've got all these people compressed in, and we're frightened. No, we could never have imagined this in 100 years. Could we, in our lifetime? We would have been like, what? And it kind of, brings up a lot of different emotions, doesn't it? Even for people that are very, very stable and, you know, rational thinking and so on. And that's why I really strongly believe in a break. I say to people, is it getting too much? Is it serving you or is it not serving you? If it's not serving you, just take a few days off. Focus on what serves you. Pet your dog, walk around the block and look at stuff in the park, like look around, look at the bushes and admire the trees and just take in the silence, or listen to the birds tweet, or bake a really delicious cake and enjoy it with people you care for, or just the stuff that's really, really kind of, or watch that film you've been putting off for ages. Simple, but away from this whole kind of highlight reel of everyone looking filtered and glossy and great and living their best life ever. So yeah, every so often I think we just need to go, no, not today.
It is true though, like you were saying earlier, like, you know, about you get some people that have got really fit during lockdown, and it's like you've either got those, and I'm one of them that has put on the pounds, or you've got, because I'm an injured runner, so I've not been able to take advantage of the long distance, and then you know you've got those that are super toned, and you're just like, wow, you know, you've got the yin and the yang. Also in lockdown, you either become a drunk or a chunk. You know, I'm thinking, I'm becoming both.
I love it. I love it. It's great. It's the best feeling ever. I love food, and I just feel like it's so interesting, isn't it? And if somebody just said to me, you know, what is the worst thing that could have come out of lockdown? The last thing I would have said is gaining weight, because when we're at home, like food for me is so important. It's our fuel, it's our energy, but also it's social and it's enjoyable and it's part of you know, our everyday life. It gets up, it fuels me for a run, and it's an opportunity to sit down at the end of the day and just be. And I feel like also if you're having a hard time and an extra glass of wine is making you happy, that's just so important. And we need to kind of encourage people to follow what makes them, as long as it's relatively healthy. You know what I'm trying to say? You know, like please don't drink a bottle of wine 5 days a week, you know, for the rest of the year. I know it's been tough and everything, but let's be rational here, friends.
Moderate.
Yeah, moderation. But and also, I think it's incredibly important if everyone's feeling lost in a web of comparison or worried about their weight and so on as a result of lockdown. I ask people to please remember this one thing. If the worst thing as a result of a kind of pandemic is you've put on 10 pounds, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's really not the worst thing in the world. Actually, that's quite a good outcome. And if you put on 10 pounds by just enjoying yourself, then that's probably a really good outcome, actually.
I love it. I'm going to keep saying that to myself.
Because it's important to remember that it's rational, because some people have you know, have lost their lives, have lost their loved ones, have been incredibly ill and so on. And if you're, you know, you've been on furlough, we've been very lucky to be able to work from home, but I appreciate this hasn't been an option for everybody.
Jobs
we have to just be kind.
As well.
Jobs have been lost. You know, it's a really tough time, and we have to try and be kind to ourselves because it is so extraordinary. And I think that it's hard, on the other hand, to watch people. Some people are thriving online, like you say. Some people have got super fit and have come out with like their 6-packs and stuff like that, and that's cool if that's thriving. But if you're having a hard time and, you know, you're eating a 6-pack of donuts, then eat the 6-pack of donuts. Stay healthy, be happy, you know, do the best you can. So yeah,
mine's the big bar of dairy milk, whole nuts. Sorry. As someone that does do running, and especially at the moment, you know, it is great for mental health if you have got your trainers and they're in the cupboard. What would you say to someone to get them on now, the benefits of even just walking?
I would say it's chasing the high, the endorphins. Now, people think that they have to run. Running doesn't work for everybody. It's not necessarily great for everybody's joints. It's not enjoyable for everybody. And therefore, I think if we take that element out there and you say to yourself, I'm going to have a go, I'm going to try starting it. If it doesn't work, I'm going to be really, really accepting of that and I'm going to walk instead. or you want to balance the two. I think walking is incredible, as is running, because it's freedom. It's an opportunity to get outside, enjoy our surroundings. It's an opportunity to switch off. I find that when I'm outside and exercising, I don't think about mundane things. I think about creative stuff, and you're taking your foot off the gas. You're putting your foot onto a different pedal. And I actually have a lot of my most creative thoughts when I'm not sitting at home watching the telly or scrolling my phone, when I'm pottering around in the kitchen cooking, or I'm going for a 15-minute walk around the block. And I do just want to say, you can go out for 10, 15 minutes. You don't have to go out for hours. It might be that you have a big family, or that you're very busy, or that the weather's not good, and so on. And I think people don't do it because they think, 10, 15 minutes, it's not worth it. It's totally worth it. It's really, really worth it. And that's really valid. And it's so important for us to keep sharing those messages with people. And also, if you find that things are getting too much, as I say, taking the foot off the pedal type thing, it's an opportunity to escape. You listen to a podcast, listen to some music, take someone you love, hold their hand and talk to them. And it just gives us an opportunity to escape the four walls. And you don't need an expensive pair of trainers to go for a walk or go for a run or anything like that. You don't need to be head to toe in lycra. Nobody's watching, nobody's judging you, and and just get out there and do you. And I really feel it's hard to go out for a walk or a run or a run walk or whatever you do, or a cycle ride, and come back and think, I feel really bad. Because I don't.
No,
I don't.
True,
I might
true.
think I'm running late for all the other things I'm meant to be fitting in, but I never feel like, that was a waste of time, because it wasn't. It was not a waste of time. And I just think it's really important to share that.
To end the podcast, can you let us know what is the title of your blog so people can find it, and your title of your podcast?
Okay, so my main blog and my social media is under Cake vs Scales. So Cake vs Scales, because it started off with my love of cake. You might have noticed I quite like food. And scales, it was because it started off with a little bit of fitness and weight loss. I put in the scales. And my podcast is still very new, and I'm still kind of like nourishing it and working with it. And it's called Am I Supposed to Say This? Because sometimes I say things and I think, was I supposed to say that? Okay, I say that. I haven't been sued yet or offended anyone yet, so I think I'm doing okay. But who knows what will happen in the future.
Make sure you go and have a listen to Kitty's podcast. It's a great listen and very honest. I'd love to know what you think about some of the subjects we spoke about, and do please join the conversation on our Twitter, Facebook and Instagram pages. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Running Tales podcast, so please do join me then.